There's nothing any better than a good pot of chicken and dumplings. And my mama made the best. So she taught me exactly what to do. I have got some chicken in this pan, and I'm pouring my broth in here because I am going to boil them in chicken broth. Because whenever I start, I have to have so much liquid with this chicken dumplings because it sure soaks it up quick. And we have my in-laws coming tonight, and I have to have enough for supper for them and for Jamie's house too, because Michael Wayne White loves chicken and dumplings. So I am making enough for them too. All right. We're going to let that chicken boil, and then we're going to get started making our dumplings. Okay, while our chicken is boiling, we're going to start making our dough. You make you a little well here in your bowl, and you're going to go in here, and with 2 fingers, you're going to get you some lard. It's not going to be much, but you get you a little lard. Now, if you were making pie crust, you'd get a lot of lard. And I don't mean that you've got to use Manteca lard. You could use Crisco, you could use whatever you want. But it has to be solid. You can't use an oil. So I use Manteca Armor, and I put this in here. Now, you take and I got to get all my little lard off. There's my rag. It calls for this right here. This is what you call a pinch of salt. Calls for a pinch of salt, and it calls for a teaspoon of powdered sugar, baking powder, not powdered sugar. And that is about a half, and that is about a teaspoon. So, you have all your stuff down there, and you're going to add a little bit of milk, a little at a time. Now, I use my hands. I don't use a spoon. And you put your little bit of milk in there, you see? And you kind of fold your flour into it. Now, this is not self-rising flour. This is all-purpose flour. And you just kind of work it until you can work it and start getting you a good bit. You work it around your flour. It'll start making a ball. And you add you just a little bit more milk. Now, if you were making pie crust, you'd be using ice water or cold water. But on dumplings, you use milk. And I pull it all up and get you a little bit more. You're adding it as you go and making it bigger and bigger so that you'll have enough dough to make you a lot of dumplings. And we are going to have a good many. Coming out of here. You say, well, that was just a little old bitty bit of lard, but it sure does make a difference. You don't want them dry whenever you set it down here to start rolling them out. You want it to be soft and pliable. So you want to get as much as you can out of it. I think that's probably going to do us in on that milk. And I have never kept dough over that I didn't use all of it. So I put it maybe in the fridge or something. I've never done that. So I don't know if you could keep it, if you had too much or what. But buttermilk won't work on this. I've never heard of anybody using buttermilk on dumplings. So, got to clean this dough off. And it gets sticky. So, all you girls that can't handle a little bit of dough on your fingers, you don't need to make dumplings. You need to stick to buying them in a can, I guess. But I use wax paper to put mine on, and I have all of those little old sleeves that you can lay out here, but you end up having a mess on them. And with this paper, I can just go ahead and roll it up and throw it in the garbage, and I'm through with it. So I have been doing that for a while and not having to worry with having to clean that little stuff. Take and knead your dough a little and get it to where you can kind of half it out and work it a little so that you can roll it here in a minute. And you're going to roll them out. Now dumplings, because of the baking powder, if you know, it's going to rise up. So you're going to roll them out pretty thin because you want them to rise up. You don't want a big clump of dumplings. You want them to be tender. And just roll them out. Okay, you see, they are about, I don't know, about a ½ inch thick maybe. Let me wash my hands off. And I'm going to cut them and get them all cut up into strips. Now, when I do, I need to add some more flour over the top of them so that whenever they do go in there, they will be ready to get thick. And that's what we're after, is to make sure that juice is real good and thick. So let me get my chicken out of my juice and we'll have it ready so that I can start putting this dumplings in. Chopping this chicken up so that we can put it in after we get our dumplings started. And it will. Now you can use canned chicken for this if you need to. There's nothing wrong with that. But remember, if you buy canned chicken, it is really, really salty. So you need to drain the fluid off of it and rinse your chicken before you add it to whatever, because it is really salty. So, all right. We are going to cut it in strips. And get these. Now, I don't cut mine in little blocks and stuff. I've seen people on TV do that. We just tear ours. So that water, that broth is going. I'm going to take 2 or 3 of my strips with me across the kitchen. Some of you have asked me about my foot. I'm healing, but if you notice me limping, later in the day it makes it a little bit harder. So, here we go. We are putting this in, and you just pull just a little bit and drop it in there. Now in a minute, they're going to get to where we have to kind of pull them back and put the rest of them in. But they'll float up toward the top just a little bit. Get some more. And like I said, I've got all of that flour on them because that's going to help to make them good and thick. And this chicken broth is making them rich. And if you don't have any chicken broth, you know you can always get you some water and add you some butter, and that butter will make them rich too. So there's 2 or 3 ways you can do, and you don't have to make them fresh like this. You can buy a can of them popping biscuits and use them. So there's a couple of different things that you can do. Now, I have got to put and roll out some more. So after we get them all rolled out and put in here, then we'll show you what it looks like. All right, I kept some liquid out so that it would keep them kind of moist. And as you see, they're going to cook. Now, right now they're so doughy, but we're going to put a lid on them. I got to salt them down first and put a little pepper and add my chicken to it. Fold it all in. And that is a pan of chicken and dumplings. I'm going to put it down on low, let it cook, let that dough cook out of them. I can't give you a time on it. I can just tell you, if you will look here, whenever 20 minutes or so is up, pull up one. And if you cut through it, and if it still has that dough look, it's not done. Or do the taste test. If it tastes doughy, don't do it. Just let her cook. They will cook out tender. If you put them on this low, put this lid on, every once in a while give it a stir because they'll stick. And you've got supper right there. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you the next time. Bye.